I'm an introvert by nature. I'm really not an extroverted person who likes to go out and like, I like to be at home with a couple friends and have a late night conversation over good food. Like that to me is a perfect night. Read a good book, listen to a podcast, go on a walk. Those are things that I really, really enjoy. And suddenly I'm in this life where I'm like supposed to be something that I really don't want to be, except for on stage, which is a really strange thing to me, which is on stage, I feel so free and exuberant and like an extrovert. And then I come off and I just feel like shrivel back into a show. Like music does that for me, and performing on a stage does that for me.
Can we take a small tangent on that?
Yeah, of course.
What's the high? Can we go through that? The introvert that wants to cuddle up and read a book. You're the front man of one of the, if not the biggest rock bands today, playing in front of huge crowds. What's the high of that, and how can you land back on earth?
The high of it is it's incredibly beautiful to walk on a stage, sing these songs that you wrote, and see it resonate with people around you and sing with them. Different cultures, different places, celebrate life. Suddenly the world seems like a fantastic place. It feels like we're all on the same team.
It's right? Like one big hug.
Yeah, it's like everybody in that room gets it. And they all, like, it feels like what you want the world to be, which is just like this coexisting unit of people. And it's not even about like, it's incredible. For sure. It's incredible. And I love it. And I wouldn't do it unless I loved it. And then you walk off stage and you turn on the news and it's like, you see, we're all against each other. Everybody hates each other. And it feels that way in the world. So music really, that's why live music is so important to people. That's why music is so important to people. Because even if it's just you and that person that wrote the song, you're listening to it, and the two of you feel connected. It's like you're hearing Tracy Chapman sing like Fast Car or something. You're just like, oh my gosh, like, yes, I get it. And you feel connected to that person. You don't feel alone. Like, so that's the high of it for sure. And then you get off stage and then, as my uncle is a heart surgeon, incredible heart surgeon who like writes the book. Like he's like the guy that the heart surgeons talk to. He's out of Nashville, Tennessee. He's just incredible, genius man. He always worries and always reach out to me. He's like, musicians die all the time. And the reason they die, is because you're getting on stage and your heart's doing this and your cortisol levels are doing this. You're getting off stage and then you're just doing this. And it's a really real thing. Like you get off stage and you feel like you need drugs because you're like, the world feels like, incredibly daunting. And it's also, I'm sure, has to do with like some like health things in your heart and the cortisone levels that are so crazy. And then you come off and it's like, I know people are like, well, then nothing's enough except meth. Like nothing's enough except heroin.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of artists turn to that stuff. And I don't say it in a preachy way. Like I've struggled with drug abuse in my life. And I really, I understand why artists turn to it.
But also the fact that you're an introvert. So the other side of it, the fame, that's something that you also said is a double-edged sword for you. The interesting thing about fame, as you also mentioned, is it's something you can't take back.
Yeah.
So it's a thing you can't just like go on vacation in Hawaii and it's like, consider, do I like it or not? No, you're staying in Hawaii for the rest of your life and you've never been there before, whether you like it or not.
Right.
So what's that like being, loved by millions and millions and millions of people, which is perhaps the best kind of fame in terms of if you had to choose the kinds of fames there are, and still being an introvert and all that kind of stuff. So what do you feel alone, more alone being famous? Is there a loneliness to it?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a funny thing because if you had asked, if we were having this conversation a couple years ago, I'd be incredibly guarded about this because the last thing I want to ever do is sound ungrateful or unaware of how much I have. And woe is the famous celebrity with money. Oh, is your life hard? Is it really? Tell me about how hard it is. But I'm also at a place in life now where I just like, I'm going to always just speak my truth because that's the only reason I'm here is I'm here to speak my truth to you. So I'm going to tell you my truth, whether it's whatever it is.
Well, you're human and feelings are real. And so,
Right.
and that's the interesting thing. You win a lottery. What's that going to feel like? It's not about complaining. Oh, it's so hard to win a lottery because you get a lot of money. No, it's still, you're human. And you get to experience these feelings. And it's fascinating. You put humans in different situations.
Right.
And it's also fascinating because a lot of people think, well, I would like to be famous. That's a big thing now on social media, on Instagram and so on.
The whole world wants to be famous. Yeah.
Or rich or famous. And then it's very interesting to think, all right, well, once you arrive, are all the problems solved?
No, yeah. So I will tell you, according to me, what the pitfalls are, whether it's true or not. And there are certainly some pitfalls. One, it's once you're there, you can't go back. Whatever. Maybe that's fine because maybe you love it.
Yeah.
But the real pitfall for me is that you're Lex, and you're what everybody's perception is that Lex is. And that's what you are. Now, Lex is probably a lot more complex and complicated and has a lot more to Lex than the Lex that is the celebrity.
Yeah.
So, but anybody who meets you, that's who you are to them. And you may not feel this way, but you may feel confined to actually have to be that person to that person. Like early in my career for a long time, anytime I met someone, I suddenly felt like I had to be Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons. Anytime I met someone, including my family now, who are also like, whoa, this is crazy. You're like Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just be the goofball that I have been my whole life with my brothers and family. But suddenly I found myself feeling like, I have to be this. Like, because that's who this is. So you're almost like playing a role. And it's like, I've heard a lot of actors talk about this, where they'll take on a role and then it's like, they feel like they like become that. And it's a really scary thing. Like you alter who you are almost to fit the notion of other people. Because especially if a lot of artists are empaths, a lot of people who get into art in a deep way are empaths. And so you feel a lot of what people are feeling. And you're never wanting to burden people, and you're always wanting to deliver to that person, what they want. Is like people pleasing goes hand in hand with a lot of like these famous people, and they get to where they were because they know how to do that. They know how to be in a room with someone and look them in the eye and make them feel like they're the only person in the room. And then now they got that role in that movie because they sat with the casting director and they were like, "Oh, you're so funny. Oh, has anybody put on the charisma, do it all." And it's like. Anyway, I'm going on a different tangent here, but long story short, there's a lot of things that are really unhealthy about it. And then a lot of people who want the fame, then the second it starts to go away, then they're like, who am I anymore? Like, oh, that was everything. And now I'm like on the down, and now I'm not a famous person anymore. And now I hate myself. Now I'm going to do drugs. And it's like this vicious cycle. Like you can never be famous enough. You're always going to get like, there's just so much to it that I've just, and again, like, I've lost friends in this career to that for sure.
And there's a certain element to sort of just on the losing fame. I've interacted with a lot of folks, especially young folks, like on YouTube. So fame is a thing that has levels. You're always trying to be a little more famous. A lot of folks who are chasing fame, it doesn't matter how famous you are, you're always trying to chase more. And when you start to lose it, interesting things can happen if you're not self-aware, which is like you mentioned, you might be trying to grasp back at where you were by leaning into the formula that got you there. And so the constraints of the image that you mentioned becomes the thing that you're now trying to lean into, like, and that's actually walking away from who you really are. Like you lean further into being that person. That's true for acting. That's true for even on like YouTube, which is people acting, they have a role, they got them to the table somehow. Yeah, it's dark, but I think that's just put for everybody to see. But that's a very human struggle, even when you're not famous, of finding yourself, of being yourself, of not doing the people pleasing at any scale.
Yeah.
And being trapped by that.
Yeah, and also feeling like it's never enough. I think that's something all he like. It's not just a famous thing, but it's like in the whole, like everybody deals with feeling like when I'm here, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
When I get that job, I'll be happy. When I have that money, then I'll be happy. When I get that surgery and my nose looks like this, I will be happy then. It's like a constant chase of happiness instead of happiness. It's like the opposite. It's opposite of self-love. It's the opposite of happiness. There's no presence to it. You're never going to find it. You're never going to arrive, and you're just going to live your life, and then you're going to be on your deathbed and be like, I was chasing the wrong thing my whole life, you know?
I should say that podcasts are interesting in that way. So for me personally, because you just talk a lot, you can't, people that meet you, they know you and they know the evolution of you. And that's the same thing for like you right now, Dan of Imagine Dragons. Just being on a podcast, like long form, reveals a side that liberates you more to be yourself. To like people see, oh, there's a human. Because they, music, they have a deep connection with you. They have experiences with you the way they experienced it, and that's who you are with them through the songs. But now you get to see, oh, there's a human being. He probably gets angry, he gets sad, he's excited, he's hopeful, and there's a core that's a good human being. But the whole roller coaster of emotions out there, it's a giant, beautiful mess. And podcasts reveal that. That's why I love podcasts, like long form.
Right.
You get to hear some artists and actors and so on. And some of them you get to see, oh, you've lost yourself in the surface. That's a tragedy with some actors, some great actors. They've left so much of themselves in the roles they've played that they can no longer be the thing they were before those great roles. That's
for sure.
It's hard. It's hard to see. So you get to see that with Johnny Depp with, I don't know, Pirates. He was talking about that with Pirates of the Caribbean. That was a shift.
Right.
Like he's not that guy.
Right.
He's forever that guy. But the point is to remember that you're not. And to your family, which is interesting you said with your family. When I see people close to me, there's an element like that. Wow, you're that. They start treating you like the famous person.
Yeah. I'm fortunate to have my manager, who's my brother, my older brother, and my lawyer is my other older brother. And that's been helpful because it's weird. It gets weird with everyone no matter what. One of the best advice I was given was by Charlie Sheen.
You got advice from Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, we were playing
the wise sage of our generation.
Yeah. Wise sage Charlie Sheen. But it was really wise. I was sitting next to him and we were playing some late night television. He said, this was right at the beginning, and he just said, boys, just mark my words, your life is about to get really weird. That's all he said. But it stuck with me forever. And it's Charlie Sheen, so of course it sticks with you. And I remember being like, right, okay, Charlie Sheen, I'm not Charlie Sheen. It's not going to get weird, but it got really, really weird, really quick, because suddenly you've existed your whole life in this way where everything you achieved, it was because you got it. And every conversation you had, like if someone liked you at the end of that conversation, well, it's because they liked you. If they didn't like you, it's because they didn't like you. And you can make complete peace with that. At least I could my whole life. I was like, life is a challenge, and be myself, and I'm going to go through it and find some people along the way that I connect with and others know. And that social integrity is so important to us. And we think it would be nice to have this, and this is going back to the pitfalls of fame. We think it would be nice to walk into a room and have everyone be like,
yeah.
And you could be like, dumpster fire. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, dumpster fire. That was amazing. Yeah. How you said dumpster fire was amazing. It's like, it's incredibly, incredibly lonely. Yeah. And it just breaks everything that you knew about humanness.
Yeah.
And it sucks. So then you're seeking out people that it doesn't exist with. And family is the closest you can get to that for sure. But even your family, it's going to take a little bit where they're like, oh, this is a little weird. Like all my friends at work are now asking about you, and you're my young stupid brother, but now you're suddenly like the young stupid brother that they want an autograph from and stuff. And it still makes like they have to get over that and figure that out. And and then you meet people too who know about this whole concept, and they're like, well, I'm going to be an asshole to him to show him that I don't subscribe.
Yes.
So then you're dealing with like people who are like dumpster fire, and the person who's like, you know, you could say something actually profound and nice, and they'd be like, that's stupid and you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Because it's like an actual attempt to like show you how much they don't care. So you live in this very like this.
And still, nevertheless, even when nobody knew you, you were seeking for deep human connection with a small number of people. And now, when a lot of people know you, you're still looking for deep connection with a small number of people. The struggle is the same.
Yeah.